Welcome everyone to Flyover Footy. My name is Matt Baker. Thank you so much for joining us on this notebook episode. We're in between matches. We have our draw against NYCFC. We have our FC Dallas match upcoming. And today we have news and notes from training. The big things on this episode are a massive interview with Dante Polvara later on in just a couple of minutes, followed by the full media scrum from Yoan Demay after Tuesday's training. But let's get right into it, and then I'll get you over to those things. First of all, player availabilities on Tuesday. We have good news. Outside of Celio Pompeu, everyone else was there. No restrictions on anyone except for Chris Durkin. Chris Durkin was working to the side on a separate field, separate from training, doing some running and solo work. It was reported during training, but also confirmed by Yoan Demay after that Chris Durkin sustained a knock on the goal scored by NYCFC. Couldn't really get going after that, couldn't sprint, and so they subbed him out a few minutes later. Durkin working to the side on Tuesday's training. Demay said in his comments that it wasn't really anything. He should be good to go later this week, and you'll hear from those full comments in just a little bit. Everyone else, including Edu Leuven, in training with no restrictions. Makai Joyner fresh off his U20s. All of the Falls, Falu, Mbake, they're all there. Everyone who was in the match on Saturday, good to go. So great news as far as the roster and player availabilities go heading into a match week upcoming where we have 3 matches in 8 days because of the US Open Cup. That's going to be huge to see what that's like. Tune in for our Thursday episode where we preview FC Dallas, where we start to look at what some of those conversations will be like with the roster and with the depth that St. Louis will need next week. Besides that, the big news so far this week is we have news on the Bosnian and Herzegovina national team. Bosnia will host their base camp in Real Salt Lake, as has been reported, in Sandy, Utah, while St. Louis is still very much in conversation for something to happen with the Bosnian national team in the lead up to the World Cup. Unfortunately, things didn't work out for their base camp that will be in Salt Lake, but St. Louis is still very much in conversations about some kind of event, a friendly or otherwise, happening in St. Louis in the lead up to the World Cup. We're hoping for a potential second and final match in St. Louis right before Bosnia starts their journey in the World Cup. More to come on that. But that's the big news that I think everybody's going to be wanting to know, because obviously St. Louis is a massive Bosnian hotbed. The team with the national team with the biggest footprint in the U.S. being right here in St. Louis. So we will be watching this keenly and providing updates as we get them. Now, on to Dante Polvara. We have an interview where, among other things, he's going to be talking about sliding into the midfield this past weekend, those blink and you miss it moments that happen in transition where you have to think on the fly, boom, boom, what happens when if you step up, you drop back, his thought process and all of that, as well as the growth of the group and what issues they're working to improve on, among other things. Yoan Demay follows after that, commenting on everything from the backline competition to Sergio Cordova's performance, Brendan McSorley's growth, tactics with the subs, and a ton more. A lot ahead in the next 20 or so minutes from Dante Polvara and Yoan Demay. I'll catch you on the other side. Enjoy these interviews, and we'll talk to you soon. Dante Polvara, thanks for joining us on Flyover Footy. Take us back to this match against NYCFC. Any different takeaways for you ever since you got to watch tape and really thought about your performance?
Yeah, I think we did well in terms of our character to come back. Of course, stay in the game. We kept playing our game after conceding, which can be tough. You go into a half 0-0 feeling positive, say let's keep a clean sheet. 5 minutes in, you concede, so goes against the plan that we just spoke about, but we do well to stay in the game. We keep the ball, we keep playing, keep believing, and we're rewarded at the end, I think, for our hard work. A lot of guys working hard, Roman keeping us in the game, guys tracking back, Lucas making last-ditch tackle. It was a lot of individual efforts combined to keep us in position to go and get a point. Having said that, I think we're a bit disappointed with how we did at times on the ball. We've definitely had cleaner games. It's not really down to the pitch or anything. I think tactically we're a bit off, execution we're a bit off. These things happen, unfortunately. It's impossible to 10 out of 10 every week, and I think LAFC away, we were great with the ball. We played a really good game and we come back with 0 points. So that's just kind of how it works. Last week or 2 weeks ago, not the best performance, but 3 points. So it's kind of just how football is. So, watching him back, positives and negatives, but overall happy to get a point.
Did you feel that the width of the pitch played at all a factor in how you guys were building, especially out of the back?
Yeah, there was definitely less space to play out wide. They knew that. So they were really compact in the middle, which was hard for us to play anything in between. Kind of looking at or forcing us to look out wide, and then I'm not really seeing much, to be honest. I don't want to give it to Rafa on an island out there, and even Cello trying to pull out wide to get on the ball. It's tough. A few times we tried it early on, and you could tell there wasn't much. I think at times we could have done better stretching them and maybe trying to create more space in the middle by threatening more in behind. It's still something we need to work on. And then, of course, I think we can be a bit more dangerous when we do win it back. We're breaking. I think there's moments where we could be a lot more clinical, which would help the overall mood of the game. I think, give us more confidence and them a bit more, maybe skeptical of pressing out on us. So there's a lot of different factors, but yeah, I think that, it's not the easiest place to play.
Right.
Yeah.
Past couple of games, Revs, NYCFC, it seems like the common theme is these haven't been your best games, but they've been the games you've managed to take points from. What are the takeaways after the last couple of games in what you need to improve upon, but still manage to keep this point streak alive?
There's a lot of tactical stuff with the shape. I think when we're pressing, we're getting caught too far apart from each other, and the forwards would tell you the back line needs to step. The back line's going to tell you the forwards need to wait. It's tough because both of those teams have a lot of threats they have some pace up top. They also have guys really good in between the lines. So it's tough for us to give up too much as a back line. We have to be quite wary of the threat, which we saw many times the other day. So I think there's shape. I think there's execution. As I said, we're trying the same things. Sometimes it comes off, sometimes it doesn't. It can be a game of margins, and that completely changes the outlook of how we played, more or less. So there's little things. I think overall, we kind of have an idea and a style we're trying to implement. We tweak things week by week, but I think just kind of keep pushing and trying to perfect little things and adjust other things, and hopefully, keep trending in the right way.
Your set defense seems like it's pretty set. You haven't, and by that I mean you haven't really allowed any goals when you've been pressed back against goal, and the teams have been possessing against you. But in transition, that seems to be where there's some growing pains of sorts. From your perspective, new-ish to the center back role, now 6 games in, playing that regularly. Take me through the mindset of how you defend in transition. What are the thoughts in when you step up versus when you drop back, and how your teammates cover for you in those instances?
Yeah, so, one big thing is trying to cover for each other, of course. I think depending on where you are on the pitch, you're always kind of trying to delay to give the rest of the team time to get back. Unfortunately, that's not always possible, as you saw against LAFC a few times, New York the other day, me, Timo Hazi, or maybe one of the sixes, we get caught in a 3v2, 4v3. And there it's a crisis moment. You're just trying to, I think, make things as predictable as possible for the other guys, including Roman, and trying to force them into an area where probably the least expected goals, which is normally out wide, forcing them tighter angle, easier for Roman to adjust if there's any shots. We conceded quite a few from tight angles, but I trust him all day from those angles, and he's more than happy to concede those, rather than, of course, giving up something inside. And then there's times where we do play with a back 5, so there's times that we can afford to step, and then we still have 4 to cover, and I think we did that well sometimes. I think we got unlucky with the goal. I spoke to Timo about it. He's more than happy for me to step, because the contrary is you stay and they keep coming, and then he ends up shooting from the top of the box, and we're saying who didn't step, or he keeps coming and you step out last second, and then now he's playing a slip ball into the box, and that's even more dangerous. We can't defend that. So they still did well to make something happen of it, of course. I think it's all of us recognizing when someone steps, how can we cover? And, we play a dangerous style of football. We like to play high-risk passes out the back. We're going to give up balls that are going to be dangerous. We like to press high, and against good teams, you're going to get beat, and that's going to leave us exposed at the back. It just is the nature of how we want to play. So you're going to have to give up some stuff. Unfortunately, I would love to say we're going to keep a clean sheet every week as a back line. That would be a lot more comfortable for me. But it's not how we play, and there's nothing wrong with that, because on the other end, the goal against New England, the first goal, we scored because of a high press, and I'm sure there's many other goals that we scored pressing high, and obviously a lot of chances, which is what we're trying to capitalize on. Yeah. I think once we start capitalizing on those more, the balance hopefully will shift in our favor, sort of thing. So yes, of course we're going to concede a lot of chances, I think, on transition. I think teams know that, which is a bit dangerous in this league, of course, but on the other end, there's a whole other side where we can hopefully create a lot from it too.
So is this a game where the more familiarity that you have, the more time and just minutes with a guy like Timo or Hazi around you, there's that awareness and comfortability with knowing in the moment, because it's really a game of milliseconds where you step up and they have to cover a spot. That familiarity is going to breed better outcomes over time. And how does that play with, I guess, returning players? So as this starts to turn over the center backs that you have, Falou, Mbake, all these other players, Lucas coming in, how do you maintain that familiarity and just awareness with that changing group?
I think we work on it a lot in training. We go over all those situations as a back line, picking them out in video, and a lot of it comes down to body shape, decision making, timing of stepping. Do you play them offside? Do you follow the runner? Do you step? We've had a bit of dilemma with trying not to get megged on shots. It's becoming ridiculous. I'm not really sure what else we can do at this point. At some point, you get a bit more luck, hopefully going your way. Of course, my relationship with Timo is strong because we're playing next to each other. So I would say, yes, right now, if I'm going to go in a 3v2 with someone, it'd be him, because we kind of have an understanding on how to handle those situations. We've been caught in a few already. Yeah. But yeah, I do it with Lucas as well, and Falou and Mbake and Kyle and all these guys, right? So we all kind of get reps in, but yeah, nothing really simulates or emulates a game, So yeah, it's tough, and as you say, you have very little time to make a decision on what's going to happen, and we just try and make it as predictable as we can.
All right, so this past game, you saw time in the midfield. In the training, it seems like you're working on the back line. Have you had time training in the midfield since you arrived with City, and did you expect that you'd be moved up later in the game?
No, I definitely didn't expect it. I thought one of me or Hazi were going to get subbed off because we were on a yellow, and they were dangerous on the counter, so I was a bit surprised.
That's a lot of trust, though, right?
Yes.
To be moved up in that position while you're on a yellow?
Yeah, I guess. I know I have to be a bit less aggressive. I think it was more about just trying to be in the right spots to hopefully help stop the counter, and then also, keep the ball moving side to side. It's obviously where I've played before this, but I played in our bounce game there for 35 minutes last week, and that's it, really.
Bounce game, is that the SLU one?
Yeah, against SLU. So, I play, or at least I watch these guys play the position, so I kind of know what's expected. But yeah, once you're in there, it's very different. So I'm learning, of course, the other day.
Are you expecting to see more time in the midfield? Have you heard anything, feedback from Coach on that?
No, I think he was happy with the other day, but, we have a lot of depth in both positions, right? So it's, right now Chris missed training today, picked up a little knock. I think he picked up a knock during the game. He couldn't continue. Danny was on a yellow as well, he likes to get very aggressive, so maybe it's a bit of a dangerous one. And then, you got Edu Tomas coming back, so I don't really know. As long as I can contribute, I'm happy, yeah.
All right. Thoughts going ahead into the FC Dallas match? Are you happy with how training's been going?
Yeah, first day back, but I think we're just trying to keep that unbeaten record, hopefully, and yeah, just improve the performance always, and try and come back with some points, especially on the road.
All right, Dante Polvara, thank you so much for joining.
Appreciate it.
You got a win and a tie in your last two games, and after both of them, you've said this team can play is not played as well as it has at other times. What does that say about the direction of the team then?
I think we're going in the right direction, and I think like the ceiling is high. At least that's the way we look at ourselves as a group, and that makes me excited, to be honest, because I think the guys have an appetite for more, and they want to push themselves, and for me, like that's people I want to work with, like people that are hungry, that wants to get better, and that see their potential as well. So I think it's also a matter of them feeling confident in their abilities and what we can do as a team.
The subs you made in that game, Durkin came off. Durkin usually goes much longer than that. What was in that? And then McNaughton for Edelman. What was behind that?
Yeah, I'm gonna start with Chris. Chris had a knock like on the goal we conceded. Got a knock, he couldn't sprint anymore. So it was just the issue. So like we had to make a change. And then Lucas came in, but we pushed Dante in the midfield. The idea was to have like a little bit something different. I had the feeling we needed a bit more legs in the middle. Then he looked also a bit tired, so I thought like, you know what, we need to change the game and try to have an impact on the result. So that's why Miggy and Dante came up in midfield, and I'm very happy with their performances.
And then Lucas's performance there also. I mean, obviously he gets the assist on the goal, makes a good defensive play for eventful 20 minutes for him.
Yeah, very good, very happy. Like we spoke about many times about the competition at the back, like, and we spoke about guys coming in. Lucas has been doing a brilliant job, like so far this season. Every time he had to step in, like he did really well. Again in that game, it's never easy. It's never easy because you're trying to push, you're trying to get the equalizer, and at the same time you have to defend. He made some important play. Credit to the guys at the back and to Roman to keep us in the game, and then we pushed and got that goal late in the game. So very happy with the way the subs came in general.
Coach, you talked about the competition at the back. With McSorley scoring, how does that change the competition at the front?
Again, like we speak about opportunities. Guys have opportunities every day in training to push themselves, push each other. So it's a great place to start. And then, of course, when you're putting guys like on the pitch, like you expect them to take those opportunities as well. So having Brandon come in and score a goal, it's a good thing. I hope he can build some confidence from that. But again, like we spoke at the start of the season about how important the group was, like in general. And having guys contribute, like when they come off the bench, is very important to us. Like especially when you want to get result and when you are running after the score. So like very happy about like those 5 guys that came in and what they brought to the group.
What kind of energy and personality does Brendan bring?
Yeah, Brendan is he's a little bit all over the place. He's young. I'm trying to give him like a structure and a framework, but I like that, like he's the kind of guy that likes to make things happen. When he steps on the pitch, like he doesn't think too much and just wants to go for it. At the same time, we're trying to give him like a little bit more understanding of like the things that he needs to do on a more consistent basis. But at the same time, like you put him in the box and he's going to create chances and be at the end of it. So I'm just happy for him that he gets the goal. Like I knew he was going to be able to create some opportunities, and it's a big goal for us with a big result in the end.
Coach, can you talk about the right 10 position? Sergio Cordova was your option in this game. Can you talk about what he's shown you in training that gave you the confidence to start him, and also what about his performance?
Yeah, again, like it's a profile thing. Like we spoke about Celio like last week, and guys being able to play like in those wide position. Sergio very early on like mentioned how like playing like in wider areas was something that he liked and enjoyed and where he felt good like in his career. So that's something we tried as well in training. We tried a little bit as well in the friendly game like a couple of weeks ago. He also came on like in the last home game against New England in that position. I think it gives you a different profile in terms of like running in behind, also being a target like if you need to skip a little bit the pressure. So yeah, Sergio has been training well. He's been pushing himself as well. He brings some quality and some experience, and we thought it was the right time for him to step on the pitch and help Simon a little bit.
With a player like that, for Sergio being on a short-term loan in this case, do you feel pressure as a coach to play him a little more often to see what you have so the organization can make a decision on whether to pick up his option?
No, I don't feel any kind of pressure. I think there is a good process in place in terms of like reflection, in terms of like looking at players, in terms also on like planning the future. So like there is no pressure like on me or on Corey or on anybody, you know, like just the pressure is like to create the environment to allow him to express himself and make the most out of the opportunity he's got, you know. So like at the end of the day, yes, we want to see him in games, but there is some decisions that are made. He started the last game, came off the bench like a couple of times before that. In the end, we spend a lot of time with him in training, so we know his abilities, we see what he can do, and then we make our decision based on that.
Going back to this last game, he seemed to get isolated out wide a couple points in the game. How do you get him more involved, whether it is out wide or more involved, maybe even centrally, get him some more touches near the box?
Yeah, again, that was part of the understanding, like in that game, like playing him out wide, maybe he was gonna receive a bit less, you know. Like we're still like trying to build an understanding of Conrad, like playing inside as well. I think like part of the assessment on that game and the previous one with Celio was Conrad still needs to figure out that 10 position, you know, like when we invert him and when he comes on the inside. Sometimes I've got the feeling that we're two players out wide, you know, like against the touchline, and that's not something we want. So like try to understand those relationships and those movements of like getting Sergio maybe into fit and keeping Conrad on the inside, or having Conrad like start moving on the outside and having Sergio like receiving behind, you know. So those are the relationships we still need to develop. It's very early, you know, like it's only the second time we really use that, and hopefully like we can work on that. You probably saw a little bit this morning, and implement that in the games as well.
Coach, I was wondering a little bit, it's exciting to watch the team with such resilience and grit come from behind, stay in it, but there are talks in the video review room about like, let's score first and then hold the lead.
Yeah.
Let's do all those things to begin with.
Of course, if that was that easy, then we would do it every weekend, you know. Like no, listen, I'm happy. Like I told the guys, like if you look at the defensive metrics of the team, like so far this season, I don't think the results and the goal we conceded like paint the right picture about like how we've been defending. Those guys, they, like I said every week, like they're putting in a shift. Like the mindset is a big part of our identity, to be honest, and it's up to them. So like I'm very happy. I told them like I hope everybody feels the pride in defending, in working out, in not giving up. That's something we spoke about since pre-season, and those guys, they're doing it every day, you know. Like it starts in training, like and I said that I think after the game, you know, like some of the things you see are conscious, like they really make the decision of stepping in and doing this and doing that, but at the end of games you see like most of the time like subconscious decision, like stuff that are ingrained in the players that they are doing every day. And that's the feeling I get, you know, like last 15 minutes the guys are not doing it because they're asked to do it, they're doing it because they want to and because they believe it's going to help the team. And for me as a coach, like it's a great feeling to have. Like we're very proud of that, and that's something we're trying to push like every single day.
You've played either Brendan or Simon on the field, you know, almost every minute that the team has been on. One of them has been out there. How much of that is about having somebody at the top who's always willing to press?
Yeah, of course it helps, you know. Like we're speaking about modern soccer, so like your forward is your first defender and your goalkeeper is your first guys building up from behind you. So it's important for us. Like at the end of the day, you need guys that up front are selfless, are resilient, and are able to repeat those efforts. Like you've got a guy like Simon, it's almost sometimes we have to tell him to calm down a little bit so we can reorganize behind him and like pick some better moment to press. That's a little bit the message as well, especially on the road, where at times like we're still so generous like in the run we're making that we get a bit disconnected. So can we understand those moments, get back together before we decide to press again? But of course you want to have guys that have that mindset and that willingness to press, and fair play to all the guys. You could include the Cello, the Sedi, like the Mackay, the Brandon, the Sangbin when they're on the pitch. Like those guys, they have that mindset, you know. Like for me it's a non-negotiable. We've established that since pre-season, and the guys are doing it, and now like I don't need to speak about like working out, you know, like they're doing it every single day.
Is Durkin okay? You obviously trained separately.
Yes, he's fine. He's fine.
Is Edu close? Could he?
Edu is training, like very happy with the way he's been training. Of course, like there is a couple of games coming, so we just have to assess like what game and when we start like reintegrating him to the team. But yeah, he's close. Again, it's more a matter of like understanding where he's at physically and how much he can contribute.
You've got 8 center backs, I think, on this team. What's that like to have You can only play 3 at a time. To have that many guys, it's a lot of center backs.
Yeah, it is a lot. At the end of the day, it's also like the way the roster is built for now. So I know it's not easy. Like when especially when you have like 3 guys that are performing and like maybe not as many opportunities as some would have thought. But at the end of the day, like everybody is bought into the way we train, and everybody is trying to get better. We're trying to help everybody as well to get better and improve, like as a coaching staff. So our effort really goes into like every single individual. So from there, like it's difficult to of course like keep everybody happy, but at the end of the day, everybody's professional about it. Everybody understands that there is competition in that position, and yeah, that's the environment we want to have.
You're in a situation where even with an Open Cup game coming up, there's still, you play 3 different guys there, you still got 2 guys that aren't getting in the game.
We will see. You know, like I've been asked multiple times if the Open Cup was a priority or was a goal, and I've said it, like we're gonna go all in Open Cup. So like who knows, like maybe the team is not gonna change, you know, like I haven't made those decisions yet. That's going to be part of the discussion, but some guys might get some opportunities, some might not. You know, at the end of the day, we're playing every game to get a result and to perform. So we will see when we cross that bridge.
This is your first 3 games in 8 days, kind of a situation upcoming. How do you approach as a coach that first game? Do you think about the second and third game as far as fitness goes, or is it just?
No. I'm again like. I cannot predict the future, so it's very difficult to start basing your decision on the second game and on the third game. So we go 1 game at a time. We focus on our process in terms of like preparation and recovery, and we hope we can turn things around like in 2-3 days to be ready for the next day, the next game, and then for the next one after that. You know, like that's why also we're trying to be mindful in our preparation. Like those weeks where we have a single game at the start of those 3 game, that 3 game week. Is very important, so we need to manage the load like appropriately this week, so we can go in the game on Saturday fresh and ready to perform, and then after Saturday we'll reassess where we're at and which player is at risk, which player is not. But again, like we go 1 game at a time. I'm not going too far ahead, and right now the focus is on Dallas.
Well, there you have it. There's Yoan Demay speaking to the media after training on Tuesday. Before that, you heard Dante Polvara, my interview with him after training on Tuesday as well. That's it for us on Flyover Footy. Please join us later this week when we preview FC Dallas, and then we have a host of content up for you next week for the US Open Cup and MLS play. For now, though, my name is Matt Baker. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you later.